Trying to understand English grammar is like trying to solve a mystery. English grammar is irregular, contradictory, and confusing. Fortunately, though, you don't have to walk these dark streets of grammatical confusion by yourself. I'm English teacher Paul Duke, and on this show I'll be your grammar detective. Each week, we'll investigate communication crimes and suspicious sentences, context clues and example evidence. Together, we'll solve these English mysteries once and for all. Welcome to Hard-Boiled English Live. Hello, Grammar Gumshoes, and welcome to the show, Hard-Boiled English Live. On this weird little show, we answer your grammar questions and hopefully solve these English mysteries for you once and for all. Now, I am your humble host, English instructor, and grammar detective Paul Duke. And I'm streaming to you live from Vancouver, Canada, to YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and today, for the very first time, a brand new streaming platform called Livespace. So if you're out there on Livespace, it's great to have you with us. To get things started, I'd love to say, where are we? Hello to everyone. So please tell me what country you're watching from and tell me your name, because sometimes if you're watching from a group, like a Facebook group, I don't see your name. By the way, guys, today my plan was to welcome a very special guest named Jiva. You may have seen the advertising posters, but we're having some technical difficulties getting him on to the stream right now. Very strange, very unusual, and we're not really sure what's going on. It's never happened before, so bear with us. If we can't get him onto the show, we will reschedule an interview with him in the future. And if he doesn't join us today, what we will do is we'll focus on our board work, we'll answer some grammar questions, and if you want, we'll even have a little quiz. So, who do we have with us? We have Sleepwalker, we have Jonas, we have English with Hand, great name. We have Zaza, we have Wilson from Ecuador, welcome to the show. I think I might have missed also Roni, we have Roni with us. We have Yobi, Yobi is with us. We have also, I think I missed someone down here. We have one of our very first ever viewers of the show, Chris Derboven from Belgium. Thank you for joining us, Chris. We also have with us Manly Oasis from Haiti. Great. Great to have you with us. We also have Allison from USA. If it's the same Allison I'm thinking of, up here, Allison. Hopefully you're doing great and staying away from those crazy storms and seaweed rafts that are floating where you are, I think. Hopefully you're doing great. Who else is with us? Now, while you say hello, everyone, I'm just going to check in with my guest and see if he's made any progress getting into the... Okay, so the latest news is my guest, Mr. Jiva, cannot join us today. So unfortunately, we'll have to reschedule this and do some further tests. Although we did test it, we were unable to connect today. So I'm not sure what that is. Maybe it's the internet. Maybe it's a conspiracy of some kind. I don't know. Jiva, I'm sorry. We'll have to try again. I really want to have you on the show. You're a fantastic educator, and I want to share you with the viewers. So, guys, I promise you we'll get Jiva back on the show in the future. Who else do we have with us? We have Riri, Sukmawati, Sukmawati. Welcome to the show. We have a Facebook user who must be watching from a Facebook group, because when you're in a Facebook group, we don't get to see your name. So guys, we won't have a guest today, unless one of you guys wants to join me as a guest. That's possible. I could interview one of you guys live on the show if you'd like, practice your English. Otherwise, today we'll devote our time to having a grammar quiz, and we will also answer some of your questions. Now, just bear with me one moment. Great. So I see a friend named Todd watching on our new platform, Livespace. Hello, Todd. I guess Livespace doesn't yet connect with my platform, which I stream with, which is called Restream. So Restream seems to be sending my signal. But if you want to join the comment thread, you can go to one of the other platforms. For example, on YouTube, if you go to The Grammar Detective, Todd, you will find us. And you'll also find us in a better definition, because on Livespace, the video quality looks pretty weak. And I am streaming in high definition. So Todd, I'd love it for you to join me over on YouTube. I think Livespace has some bugs to work out. Yeah, I won't see your comments. I'm watching on Livespace on another computer, and I can see your comments only on Livespace. So I think Livespace is a self-contained platform. Love the idea of it, but I think they're still in beta and they have some bugs to work out. Always the best place to watch this show is YouTube, because you can put comments. And by the way, you can also subscribe to the channel, and you can watch my other shows. For example, where am I? You can watch English Weirdness, which is my main web series that I've made with my students. English Weirdness is a long-form video series, web series. And on English Weirdness, we examine grammar points. We have little dramatizations. We also have animations to explain graphically some of these grammar mysteries. So it's a very effective way of learning what can be very complicated grammar. So check that out on the YouTube channel. Okay, the YouTube channel again is The Grammar Detective. Now we're off to a little bit of a rocky start, as I said, because we were expecting a guest, but our guest is unable to connect. So we're going to have to shift things a little bit here. Let me just continue saying hi to everyone. We have Jean Plata. Jean Plata. What country are you watching from, Jean? Great to have you with us. Okay, so bad video quality at this moment on YouTube here. Yeah, I have a feeling something is going on out there in the world internet. So I'm seeing a bad video quality, although I am streaming in high definition, and my guest could not connect. So something might be going on with our underwater internet cables. But I'm just going to double check something here. Yeah, we are streaming in high definition. However, the pictures that I'm seeing in some of the other platforms are low quality. I think we have internet problems, guys. I'm from Colombia. I met you in Vancouver. Yes, Jean, I remember. You're with the Air Force, the Colombian Air Force. And if I'm not mistaken, Jean, you worked on Black Hawk helicopters. Is that correct? I believe you were a helicopter technician, right? I do remember you, Jean. And by the way, I visited Colombia shortly after we worked together at the language school. I came to Bogota and Cartagena and had a very nice visit. I didn't have enough time to visit you and some of the other Air Force guys that I worked with and taught. Yes, that's right. Helicopter technician. Yeah, so the next time I visit Colombia, which I will because I loved it, I'll have more time and I'll make a point of meeting you and maybe Mario and some of the other guys. Yeah, guys, so I think we have internet problems today. So Jiva, if you are watching and you're still struggling to connect to be my guest, I think the problem is the internet. You're doing everything correctly, but I think the problem is the internet. So Pallavi is with us. Hi, Pallavi from India. So no interview, I think so. Unless, Pallavi, you want to join, then I can interview you. So my guest cannot connect. So instead, we'll devote today to answering some questions and a quiz. Now, do you want the quiz first or at the end of the show when your brain is warmed up? Have a quiz now or later? You tell me. In the comment box, tell me if you want a grammar quiz now or later. Because if you're ready, I'm ready. What do you think, guys? Yeah, so Pallavi, this is interesting. My guest is also in India. He's in Chennai. And he was having a really hard time joining the live stream. So I think we have internet problems worldwide because it looks like my live stream is not streaming clearly. And a friend of mine hosted a live stream 1 hour ago, and it seemed to have trouble on LinkedIn. So I suspect there's something wrong with the internet worldwide. I'm not sure what, but could be anything these days. Anyhow, we will carry on. The show must go on, guys. Okay, so what do you think? Grammar quiz first? Okay, so Wilson says his vote. For me, it is okay now. Okay, Wilson in Ecuador says, let's have a grammar quiz now. Yes, sure, Wilson, of course. Everyone else ready for a grammar quiz? Wilson is an English teacher also, and he has confidence in you. So if you're ready, and I'm ready, let's do our grammar quiz now, okay? All right, so I'm just going to get my raincoat off because it's not raining in here. In fact, it's quite hot. Take my hat off because my head needs to cool down. And let's do a little grammar quiz. All right. Oh, okay, here we go, guys. Grammar quiz time. Now, this grammar quiz is basically 5 questions, and it's going to ask you which of these expressions is a correct and complete sentence. Okay, this can be a little tricky. Correct and complete sentence. Okay, here we go. What do you think? Please put your answer in the comment thread. What do you think? A, B, C, or D? Just put your letter in the comment thread, guys. Okay, we have some D. Chris says D. Facebook user says D. Sleepwalker says D. Jonas says D. Ridi says D. Pallavi says D. English says D. So we have a lot of people agreeing on D, but that alone does not make it correct. Don't follow the crowd just to follow the crowd. If you believe in the other letters, trust your feeling. Okay, Wilson says D. Anyone else? Okay, Manley says D. We have Dr. Nuro. Nuro says D. Pallavi says D again. Very emphatic. Thank you, Pallavi. Very confident. I like it. Anyone else? Okay, so Jonas says A, misses a B verb. Yeah, you're right. Sentence A isn't really a sentence or a clause because there's no verb. Teacher is a noun, Paul is a noun, a is an article, and Canadian is an adjective or a noun. So there's no verb there, so that can't be correct. Good insight, Jonas. Well done. Okay, guys, the correct answer is oh, something's funny here. Sorry, guys, let me just reboot that because something weird is happening. Something weird's happening everywhere today. I can't seem to choose the letter. Here we go. Letter D is correct. Paul is a Canadian teacher. Let's try this one. Okay, good question. I see here Dr. Nuro has a question. I'm going to answer that after the quiz, okay? Good question. So which one of these is the correct and complete sentence? A, B, C, or D? Let's see your answer. Okay, we have Speak Bro with us. I'm really sorry, Speak Bro, that it wouldn't work today, but it looks like we're having internet problems worldwide, Jiva, because some of the feeds on some of the platforms is not high definition, yet it shows that it's high definition. So I don't think you were doing anything strange. I don't think the platform was. I think the internet is the problem. We also have another viewer here with us in India, and she is having trouble with the signal. So I'm really sorry about today, but we'll get you on. Okay, it looks like a lot of people are saying C. Okay, Pallavi, thank you for your honesty. One little tip. If you're not sure which one's the answer, try to figure out which ones are totally not the correct answer. If there's something about the other ones that you don't like and you can eliminate them, maybe it will lead you to the correct answer. Okay, guys, the correct answer, it turns out, is C. Many students take the exam. We'll review these after the 5 are complete. Okay, how about this one, guys? Peter likes pizza. Peter likes pizza because Peter likes pizza. And by the way, if you watched the show last week, you will remember our discussion about dependent and independent clauses. And that's what we see happening here. Okay, so Sleepwalker's telling us A. Chris says A. Jonas says A. Riri says A. Nero says A. Zaza says A. All right. Pallavi says A. Manly Oasis says Peter likes pizza, A. And Wilson from Ecuador says A. Does anyone have a different answer? Is anyone a rebel? Okay, now I see Alison Colosia. So apparently you are the Alison, I thought. Again, great to have you with us, Alison. Thank you. Long time no see. I hope you're well. I would love someday to cross paths with you again. You were one of my favorite people back then. And I look back fondly on those days hanging out with you. Okay. So, guys, does anyone have a different answer? Something not A? Yeah, great. Yeah, for some reason, when you're watching inside a Facebook group, we don't see your name. We just see Facebook user. It's still fine to watch from the Facebook groups, but it's always nice to see your name and picture. All right, guys, so it looks like time to reveal the answer. The answer is A. Peter likes pizza. Okay. Number 4. Which of these expressions is a correct and complete sentence? A, B, C, or D? Let's see what you have. Paul's show every Friday. Every Friday, Paul's show. Every Friday, Paul's show streams live. Or every Friday, Paul's show live. What do you think? Okay, so Chris is telling us C. Jonas says D. Okay, we don't have a consensus. Pallavi says D, maybe. Pallavi is not confident. Sleepwalker says C. Jonas says C. Ridi says C. And Nuro says C. And Alison says C. Who's right? Who to trust? Wilson from Ecuador says C. And hello to Marta. Marta's with us. Thank you for joining us, Marta. Marta says C. Again, we have a lot of C's here, but don't just say C because everyone's choosing it. They could all be wrong, right? Zaza says C. Very interesting. But we have a few D's. This is indeed very interesting. Any last choices? Any final choices? All right then, you guys are pushing me to give you the answer. And the answer is C. You were right. Every Friday, Paul's show streams live. Okay, the final one, guys. This might be the most challenging one yet. Okay, so Riri is offering an explanation of why that's correct. Let's have a look. Every Friday, time signal. Yes, that's a time adverb because this tells us when the action happened. Every Friday, time adverb. Paul's show, that's the subject. Streams is the verb. And live is the object. It's actually not the object because it's also an adverb. It's describing the verb. It's telling us how he streams. right? He streams quickly, streams fast, streams slowly, streams always, streams well, hopefully. All of those are adverbs. And live is telling us another way that he streams. He streams how? Live. So this case, live is not an object because it's not even a noun. It's an adverb. One of these days, we should have a show all about adverbs because in any English sentence, you can have several adverbs. As you can see, we have 2 here. And a lot of times, students and learners don't really know that they're looking at adverbs, right? My favorite example is the word downtown or abroad. A lot of people will say things like, I'm in downtown, or I'm in abroad, or I'm going to abroad. But you can't have a preposition in front of an adverb. Prepositions are there to connect nouns, like pens in the cup. Pens are noun, cup's a noun. Abroad or downtown are adverbs, so you can't be in them. So we'll have a discussion about that another time. We have in the past many times. But for now, let's find out the answer here. So we have a lot of D's. Susie walked her dog in the park yesterday. Lots of D. Oh, that's an interesting choice. We have Zaza saying D. Zaza, confidence, I like it. Wilson from Ecuador says D. Neuro says, confused between A and D, but I will choose D. Why will you choose D? Do you have a good explanation? Manly Oasis says D. Dear Allison says D. Well, let me tell you something about A, guys, that might help make your decision. I just mentioned about prepositions and adverbs. The job of a preposition is to connect a noun. And in fact, the word preposition has another part inside it, preposition. And in English, the prefix pre means before. So it means before position. That's an easy way to remember that prepositions come before nouns, right? About 95% of the time. So sentence A says, Susie walked her dog. Now, we have a subject, Susie, we have a verb, walked, we have an object, dog, and then we have a preposition, but there's nothing after it. So we might call this a dangling preposition. There needs to be a noun after in. Susie walked her dog in. In what? Susie walked her dog in the park. That would be good. We don't have that noun here. So A can't be correct. Yeah, okay. Because we're using past tense, we don't know when Susie walked her dog. Right? We don't know in what she walked her dog. So it's a very incomplete sentence. Manley says D is the most complete. Okay. And Wilson from Ecuador says letter D is a complete sentence. Okay, guys, time to reveal. Number 5. And you are correct. D. Susie walked her dog in the park yesterday. So let's have a quick review. So the first one is complete because it says Paul is a Canadian teacher. We have a subject, a verb, and an object. And some of the other examples had words like because Paul is a Canadian teacher. When you add that word because, it turns that sentence into a dependent clause. It's not complete anymore. Paul is a Canadian teacher is complete. You can say that. It passes my famous bus stop test, which is a mental thought experiment to test if something is independent or not, right? For example, if you walk up to the old lady at the bus stop and say that sentence, will she understand? right? If she doesn't, it's not an independent clause. Let's say Paul is a what? Paul is a Canadian teacher. Okay. Paul is a Canadian teacher is fine. It's independent. But as soon as you add that word, this changes the idea and makes it require an independent clause, either before it or after it, right? So this does not pass the test at the bus stop. If I walk up to an old lady or an old man at the bus stop and say, "Excuse me, because Paul is a Canadian teacher," they're going to say, "What do you mean?" But if I said, something like, "He speaks English," right? Subject, verb, object. He speaks English. Why? Because Paul is a Canadian teacher. That's the reason for this clause. So this is an independent clause. That's dependent. It depends on that one. So adding a word sometimes makes the sentence less complete, right? And the same with words like before. Before what? So number one is correct because it's complete, and it's a clause because it has subject and a verb. So those are the two requirements for an independent clause. You need a subject and a verb, and it needs to be a complete self-contained idea. This has a subject and a verb, but with this word there, it's not a complete idea. It wants another part of the idea. Number two, many students take the exam. Students is our subject, take is the verb, and we do have an object. And by the way, you do not need an object in every sentence. For example, I can tell you about my hobby. I run. Or I exercise. Subject, verb only. And it's a complete idea. It's a small idea, it's simple, but it's complete. So you don't always need an object. You could also have a subject, be verb, adjective structure. Paul is happy. Subject and a verb make it a clause, and it's a complete idea. So it's a sentence. Okay, number three was Peter likes pizza, another classic subject, verb, object structure. Number four was every Friday, time adverb. Paul's show streams live. Paul's show is the subject, streams is the verb, and live is the adverb. Okay, and again, sentences can have subject, verb, object, subject, be verb, adjective, and subject, verb, adverb. Paul runs. Paul runs quickly. Paul runs every day. Paul runs usually. You can put an adverb there. Finally, number five, Susie walked her dog in the park yesterday. So here we have Susie, subject, walked, past tense verb. We have her dog, that's our object. We have in the park, which tells us where the action happened. So that's an adverb of place. And it's written as a prepositional phrase, in the park. Yesterday is a time adverb, and it's telling us when the action happened. So if you've got all those answers correct, well done. If you got most of them correct, well done. If you got none of them correct, please keep watching the show. And we'll talk about why some of these things work and some of them don't. Okay? But anyway, guys, hopefully you enjoyed that. Let's get back to business. Where's my cursor? Okay. Let's just catch up on some of the comments here that I've missed while I was babbling. If we put inside instead of in, would that be correct? I'm falling behind, Allison. Inside what or in what? Inside the park, you mean? Or that sentence that had the dangling, what was that one called? The dangling preposition. There was one there that had a dangling preposition, right? Which one was that? I think that's the one you're talking about, right? Yes. Yes. Let's take a quick look at that. Let's examine it. Let me just clear this board, guys. This is a great question, and it's going to reveal something very interesting, I think. Something maybe that will surprise you. Now, I think the sentence is, Susie walked her dog in, right, Allison? Or in. That's the sentence you're talking about, correct, Allison? Let's just check with Allison. Yes, okay, good. So let's identify the parts. Step number one, when you see a sentence you don't understand, I always recommend identify the parts. Susie is a noun, a proper noun, a person, so that's our subject. We have a past tense verb, walked. Now, we don't know when she walked, and that's a problem when you use simple past, because simple past refers to a specific moment in the past where an action started and stopped. But in order for that to have a referent point, to be a referent point, we need to know when that happened. So I think it was Jonas who suggested we put the adverb yesterday here. So that would be helpful. Let's put it at the beginning. Now, time adverbs can go at the beginning of the sentence or at the end. My preference is at the beginning because it's really helpful for a reader or a listener to know when you are referring to, especially if the sentence before was talking about now, right? So then the time adverb at the beginning of the sentence becomes a natural transition. Anyway, subject, verb. And then we have the noun dog. So this is our object, dog. And before, we had this preposition in, which seems to want a noun here. Like, walked her dog in the park. Okay? So Allison's question is, can we use this word? She walked her dog inside. And I think what you're talking about, Allison, is like, she was walking the dog outside in the neighborhood, and then she walked her dog inside, meaning from outside to inside the house, right? In that case, we certainly can. But in that case, this is not really a preposition, right? So for example, I can say, these pens are inside the jar or the glass. I don't even know what that is. The pens are inside the jar. Then it's a preposition. But inside can also be an adverb. And if inside is telling us how or where she walked and did that action, then it's clearly an adverb. So this is something that's pretty weird in English that I think a lot of learners don't quite get. Maybe a lot of teachers too. But words can shift their function and their meaning. We can call that syntactic shift when they do a different job, like change from preposition to adverb. We can call it semantic shift when they change their meaning. And I think you all know about different examples of synonyms and things like that that change their meaning. So this is a syntactic shift because inside is usually a preposition. Pens are inside the jar. But now it's acting as an adverb, telling us about the action walked. So the answer, Allison, is yes, we can definitely use that. And it has a different meaning. It doesn't make us feel like we're missing the park, right? And in fact, you could even say she walked her dog in if we already know in what, right? Then, like if you walk the dog from outside into the house, and it was clear that the dog is now in the house, right? For example, if you're in the context with the person who says it and you can see the dog in the house, then you could say in, and it also becomes an adverb, telling us the direction. This is also the case with words like downtown. Downtown is either an adjective or an adverb. It's not a noun, even though it feels like a noun. It feels like a part of the city. And there is some argument that people use it as a noun, so it's becoming a noun. But it started life as an adjective, right? I live in what? In downtown Vancouver. That's a city. Vancouver is a noun. Downtown becomes the adjective in front of Vancouver. But when I talk to people in Vancouver, we all know where we are, so we often drop the city name, and then we just say, I live downtown. Because if you drop the noun, it can't be an adjective. And if you drop the noun, you can't have a preposition. So we drop the preposition, drop the noun, downtown becomes an adverb. So this is, again, this shifting that happens. Okay, hopefully that answers your question, Allison. Thank you for asking it. Let me just see. This is a good question. I'm just going to clear the board, and then we'll answer this question. So, oh, sorry, it's not even on the board. Let's put it up. This is a great question. And again, it seems to be related to this idea of clauses. So if that's our topic today, it's a good time to talk about it. Okay, how high is that? Good. So let's talk about words like and or but. What the hell are they? Well, these are what we call coordinating conjunctions. Okay, what the hell is that, Paul? Well, let's find out. Remember what an independent clause is. It's a subject and a verb, but also a complete idea, self-contained idea that you can tell the old man or lady at the bus stop and they'll understand. They might not know why you're talking to them, but they'll understand the idea. So an independent clause is a subject plus a verb and a complete idea. For example, let's say I like pizza. You can test that at the bus stop. Excuse me, ma'am, I like pizza. Now, she doesn't know why I'm saying it, but she will understand the idea. She'll say, oh, really? I like pizza too. Let's say we have another idea. I cook it. It meaning pizza. So I like eating it and I like cooking it. Two different ideas. And I can join it with the conjunction and, like I just did. Right? So conjunctions, their job is to join independent clauses. That's what they do. And there are 7 of them that you can use to do this. Right? They are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Otherwise known as the FANBOYS. FANBOYS. Just a funny way to remember it. So these are conjunctions, and their job is to connect one independent clause with another, and now you have a big sentence, bigger sentence, more complex. Okay? And when you do this, if you're writing, you need a comma. Before, not after. Okay, so if their job is to connect 2 sentences, and the question is it okay to start a sentence with and or but? Kind of no, right? Because their job is to connect 2 sentences. However, that's the grammar rule or the grammar structure. The truth is, though, if you read, if you read a novel or a newspaper article or an online article, you will see sentences that begin with but and and. Okay? Let's see here. What do I have? I have a book called The Fortress of Solitude by Jonathan Lethem. I'm sure if we look, we will find sentences that begin with but and and, right? He might say, it was raining, period, but I went outside to play. Now, grammatically, this should look like it was raining, comma, but I went outside to play. Now, here's the truth. You'll see that in professional writing all the time. And what does it do? Well, it makes a little emphasis on this. And it's also kind of the way people speak. They'll say, well, it was raining, but I went outside to play. When we isolate that sentence and give it its own start and end, it kind of gives it a little bit more emphasis. Here's the difference. If I see that in Jonathan Lethem's book, this is a very, very professional, a little bit famous, written many novels author. If I see him do it, I know that he wrote this book, gave it to his professional editor at the publishing company, and they checked it and they said, whoa, Jonathan, you're starting a sentence with but. That's not a grammatical use. It should be connecting two sentences, not beginning a sentence. And Jonathan says, I don't care. I'm the author. I make your company lots of money. That's the sentence I want to put in there. In other words, a professional writer has the liberty and the freedom, because they make money for a company, to make choices that are not grammatical. He chooses that sentence because it's more poetic or more beautiful or just sounds more like speech. So he can do it. If you guys do it, something very different happens. So let me remind you, if I read Jonathan Lethem doing it, I say, oh, that's a style choice. He knows, he's a smart guy. He knows he's making a grammar error. He's doing it anyway because he wants it to sound like that. He's creating rhythm. He doesn't have to be grammatically correct. Just like a song lyric doesn't have to use correct grammar. It can use slang. It can use bad language, terrible grammar. It's a style choice. But if you guys write a sentence like this and give your article or your essay to your teacher, does your teacher say, oh, excellent style choice? No, they think you're making a mistake. They think you haven't learned this grammar well. So, your question, Sleepwalker, is, do you think it's fine? It can be fine if it's clearly a style choice. But if you're a language learner and you're writing sentences like this in your schoolwork, you might lose points because they're expecting you to learn the correct use of this. And if you try this and you do it and it becomes a habit, you may not realize that this is actually what is the proper function. The job of this conjunction is to join two independent clauses. So if you do this all the time, you may never learn how to do this. And this is more important than this. So is it fine? It's acceptable if it is clearly a style choice. How do we know if it's clearly a style choice? Well, if a professional writer does it, right? Because a professional writer has learned the fundamentals, and that gives them the freedom to break the rules. When you're learning fundamentals, you don't have the freedom to break the rules because people are checking to see if you have learned the fundamentals. Okay? So master the fundamentals, then you can be a rule breaker. Right? So Zaza says we can't. You can, but the question is whether you should. Because the truth about language is you can say anything. Right? You're not going to jail in some countries, right? If you say bad grammar. You can say anything. but are you communicating your meaning correctly? And will your teacher think you're making a mistake or a style choice? For most students, teachers aren't thinking that you have style choices to make. Okay? They're thinking you're making an error and you will lose points. So if you're learning English and you're writing in English, make sure you know this structure so you don't lose grammar points, right? Or I have a little system in my classes. If my students are advanced enough and they know this structure, but they want to try this, I tell them, okay, go ahead and write that, but let me know that you know it's a grammar error, but you're trying to make a style choice by putting a happy face here. That tells teacher Paul, I know I'm doing bad grammar, but I want to try it because I want my writers to improve their style if they're advanced enough. So a little signal to your teacher, as long as you've arranged that signal with your teacher, then the teacher says, okay, we both know it's bad grammar, but you're trying it as a style choice. Go ahead. But you have to have that agreement with your teacher. And your teacher should know that you already know this because you've proven it, but you want to try something new. Let's see what else we have here. I might have missed someone. This is not a bad idea. If you said something like, because teacher Paul is a Canadian, that's a dependent clause. And you could say it alone if the other person in the conversation said the independent clause, right? So let's take a look at that, because that's kind of cool. Let's imagine we're in a conversation, Jonas, you and I. So Paul and Jonas are having a conversation. Could be a question and answer, right? Oh, let's say, what if you said, why do you like pizza? Okay, that's a perfectly grammatical question, Jonas, right? Subject, verb, object, and question words. And what if my answer is this? I like pizza because it is delicious. Okay, what do I have here? I have subject, verb, object, connecting adverb, subject, verb, adjective. So I have an independent clause. It is delicious. Sorry, I have I like pizza. That's our independent clause. It passes our bus stop test. And then I have a dependent clause, which the lady at the bus stop doesn't understand. Because it is delicious. What? Because it is delicious. Doesn't sound complete. But now we have them together, right? Why do you like pizza? I like pizza because it is delicious. Now, in a normal conversation, we probably wouldn't say this part. Why? Because you just said it. Why do you like pizza? So you know that I like pizza already. You're not asking if I like pizza. You know it. Why do you like pizza? You like pizza. You know that. What you're asking is why. So most of the time in a conversation, that will be the answer. Why do you like pizza, Paul? Because it is delicious. So why am I allowed to say that? Pretty simple. Because you gave me the independent clause. And our conversation joins them. You say the independent clause, I say the dependent clause. Together we form a meaning. That's the beauty of conversation, right? You can give me one half of the grammar structure, and I can provide the other half. And together we have formed a proper grammar structure. On its own, this is independent, so that's fine. On its own, that's a little weird. It's dependent. But I'm not saying this alone in isolation. I'm saying it to finish your clause. Okay, so you're absolutely right, Jonas. If the interlocutor, the question asker, for example, is asking a question or even just makes a statement, you like pizza? Yeah, because it is delicious. I don't have to say, yeah, I like pizza because it is delicious. I could just say, because it is delicious. Okay. We're getting to the point, ladies and gentlemen, where I have to get going before I melt. Phil Charter is here. Phil has a question about commas. Go ahead, Phil. Ask away, and I'm going to clear the board and prepare. Phil is really keen on learning about commas. I love it. I love it. Now, Philip is a fantastic writing coach. So when writing, commas become very important. We kind of use them in speech, right? I could say something like, well, I love 3 foods better than most. I love pizza, comma, sushi, comma, and curry, period. So if I say that as a series, as a list, you can kind of hear the pause between them. I like pizza, sushi. I like pizza, sushi, and curry. So we do kind of pronounce punctuation. So here's a great question. Sorry. Philip is asking, do you always need to put a comma after a time expression? This is a great question. For example, yesterday, comma, I ate pizza. So the rule of thumb is yesterday is a time adverb, and it's coming before the independent clause, which has a subject, a verb, and an object. And the reason for the comma is sometimes a time adverb actually has a noun in it and a verb. It could be a clause. And we want to make sure that we know that that doesn't contain the main subject. The main subject comes after the comma. So it could be something like, when I was young. Okay, that whole thing is our time adverb, but inside it has a clause. I was young, adjective. But we want to make sure that when we think about this whole sentence, that this is not the subject. Let's change that a little bit. When I was young, let's say she ate pizza, someone else. So the subjects are different. And she is the main subject of this whole sentence. But we have another noun in here that could be confused. So the comma separates this whole thing. And by the way, this is a dependent clause. Even though it's a clause, the word when, let's put it down here. The word when makes that dependent, doesn't pass the bus stop test. I can't walk up to the lady at the bus stop and say, excuse me, ma'am, when I was young. She'll say, okay, when you were young, what? But if I said, I was young, she might say, yeah, me too. Right? Adding the word makes it incomplete, ironically. So the question is about this comma. If we put the time adverb at the front, the conventional grammar mode is to put a comma to separate it from the main clause. If we put it at the end, no comma, right? We could just say, she ate pizza yesterday. Period. No comma here. Okay? Or she ate pizza when I was young. So the comma belongs here when this is at the beginning. But that's not what Philip is asking. Philip is asking, do we always need to put a comma? And this again maybe comes back to what we're talking about, the difference between grammar rules or grammar conventions and stylistic conventions. I believe this. If you have a very short sentence, it's pretty clear what parts are what. It's pretty clear we have one subject, one verb, one object, and that this is an adverb of time. There's no doubt what this is doing. The sentence is so short. So I believe in writing, if you have a very short sentence, you can get away with not having a comma. And I'm sure if you're reading a fabulous novelist like Mario Vargas Llosa, he's a master of language, even in English. If he writes a sentence like that and publishes it in a novel, I'm pretty sure his publisher is going to save $1 and not have a comma there. Right? Or Vargas Llosa might want to just keep that sentence flowing when we read it. Yesterday I ate pizza. Instead of, yesterday I ate pizza. He might not want us to experience the pause. And in a short sentence, I think not much is lost, Phil. Not much signaling of meaning is lost in a short sentence. Now, if the sentence is longer and has maybe an adverb clause of time, when I was young, she ate pizza in the park while nibbling chips and watching her dog. If you have a huge sentence, it is helpful to separate the parts with those commas. So your question is, do you always need to put a comma? I would say no. But again, if you're an English learner at a school and you fail to put the comma, your teacher might assume you're making an error or that you haven't learned the comma rules yet. So I'd be careful with that. I would develop good comma habits. And when you become a professional writer and start publishing novels, you can start breaking rules. Hopefully that answers your question, Philip. I'd be curious to know what you think. How strict are you about commas, Phil? With my students, I want to be strict because I want them to develop good punctuation habits. And then in the future, they can break those rules and omit commas for stylistic reasons. But I think when you're learning a language, it's important to develop the good habits so that you have the fundamentals in hand that you can repeat, especially when your teacher is marking you. And then when you're on your own, writing a blog or writing an online article or publishing a novel, you have the freedom to bend the rules, right? Especially if you're making money selling your novel like Vargas Llosa or Jonathan Lethem or Stephen King, right? Guys, my room is starting to boil over, so I'm going to have to say goodbye. Now, I do see a few questions here, and I will record them and get to them next week, okay? But I have to be very careful in the summertime not to go over an hour here because my studio room gets really hot, the camera gets hot, the computer gets hot, and frankly, so do I. So, I think I better say goodbye. Oh, interesting. So now we have good video quality. That's good to know. It must have been something with the internet. This is a good question from English with Mask Girl. I tend not to focus on vocabulary. Other teachers do that. That's fine. This show is really about grammar and, breaking down grammar structures that might be confusing. I don't see a lot of other educators doing that online. So that's why I started this show. Plus, I love grammar, so I like to focus on grammar. However, occasionally some vocabulary, pops up. The other thing about vocabulary is that, you can learn a lot about a word by looking in the dictionary. You can learn not just the meaning, you can learn all kinds of other features of that word. And that's something you can do by yourself. It takes a little more help to really understand grammar structures. So I'd rather spend our time on this show focusing on that. Oh, thank you, Allison. I appreciate that. Allison is also a teacher. Yes, great. Isn't it funny how life brings us to these professions, Allison? Who would have thought back when, huh? I'd love to have a chat with you sometime. Let's get together on Zoom or something, Allison. Love to catch up. Okay, yeah, thank you guys. Thank you very much for joining the show today. I'm sorry that we couldn't bring my special guest on today. We'll do our best to get him back because he's a very interesting man doing fascinating things for his online community. So I apologize for our technical difficulties. We'll get those sorted out. But we'll have Jiva on the show at some point. And by the way, if you are not familiar with what Jiva does, go to Instagram and look for Speak Bro. Okay, let me just see if I have a graphic. I don't, sorry. He was going to bring the graphic. Go to speak_bro, B-R-O, _, and you'll find his work. He's doing some really great stuff. Okay, guys, I'll be back next Friday, same time, 10 a.m. Pacific time. That's here on the West Coast of North America. Thank you for joining me, guys. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, wherever you are, your weather is nice. You're looking forward to a lovely weekend. Until then, guys, keep learning, be healthy, and stay cool. Thanks for watching tonight's show. If you have an English grammar question, an English mystery, contact me on social media and send me a video of you asking the question. I'll investigate it on a future show. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell button to get all the updates about videos and events. If you're feeling generous, you can also donate to the production costs of the show at Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee. Finally, until the next time I see you on Hardboiled English Live, I want you to keep learning English. Stay healthy and stay cool.